Hello everyone, thank you very much for coming along. I think there's what's really interesting about this, and I will ramble on a bit. I still am unable to actually sort of put in nice, coherent, short sentences into short speeches, so I will sort of take a few sort of diversions across the place. But essentially what we're looking at, this is the result of some 36 years of privatisation. This is what we're looking at. This is like the victory pile of the ruling elite. This is the riches, kind of like they stamp out the ground. And if you go, there's a wonderful example of this. If you go and look, if you go up along, follow the Thames footpath, you'll come to a thing called the Curlicue, which is a statue that was done to commemorate the London Docklands Development Corporation. And it is, it's a stainless steel tube, and it's quite sort of like antiseptic and anodyne, and it celebrates a corrupt organisation that subverted democracy and actually trampled over local people's rights to get airports and to get all sorts of stuff done in the city. If you then go on a bit further, down, if you head towards, head east, you'll come to a statue. And when I first saw it, I thought, what is this? And what it is, it's an old bloke, sort of looking like slightly Edwardian, and he is sitting on a bench, and just on the wall of the Thames footpath is a young girl, possibly 8 or 9, something like that, and she's got some kind of petticoat thing on. And when I saw it, I just thought, uh-oh, this is a bit Lewis Carroll. But there is a fantastic story to it, and the story is this. That sculpture commemorates Dr. Salter. Dr. Salter was one of the first campaigners in London to actually fight for public health. He was a socialist, and what he did was he campaigned in the local maternity units. He completely reversed mortality rates for mothers and children, and he was quite a firebrand. And his daughter died when she was 8 because he had the audacity to live in the area that he represented. And scarlet fever went around, and she died. And his opponent said, this is what happens when you sacrifice your children on the altar of your politics. And he endured that and went on, and his wife was incredible as well, involved in the trade union movement. And there's a family story, which is, as an old man, shortly before his death, Dr. Salter sat on a bench near the River Thames and had a reverie. And the reverie was that he saw his daughter alive again, that he saw his 8-year-old daughter alive. And that is what that sculpture commemorates. It commemorates a personal thing. It commemorates a man's life. It commemorates a fight for public health and for public space. It commemorates actually representing people in a genuine way. And then you look at that, and you look at the Curlicule, which represents a corrupt group of bankers. And I suppose what we see is how they stamp out their values in their buildings and art around the place. That aside, there is a thing called the PSPO. I think this is an extension of it. The PSPO is called the Public Space Protection Order, and it was introduced by the coalition government in 2014 under their Criminal Justice Act. And what it means is councils can bring in laws to make things illegal. They can make certain activities illegal by voting them through in a certain area. And if you do these activities that become illegal, you can get an on-the-spot, instant, fixed penalty notice of a £100 fine. If you cannot pay that £100 fine, or refuse to, you get taken to court, you get an automatic criminal record, and you can get up to a £1,000 fine in the courts. In Oxford, which was the first one that I kind of became aware of and got involved in, the activities the council wanted to ban were sleeping rough, so being homeless, having the cheek to be homeless in a city centre. They wanted to give homeless people a £100 fine. Sleeping in a public toilet, £100 fine. Chalking on the pavement, £100 fine. They wanted to make feeding the pigeons, £100 fine. They wanted to outlaw what they said was non-compliant busking. And what do you mean by that? Someone's going, I demanded Stairway to Heaven, and he did, hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, I am furious. That is non-compliant busking. I said, what do you mean by that? And the council said, we've got guidance notes. So if you go and look at their guidance notes, it says buskers who are not smiling while performing will be deemed to be non-compliant. They're going to fine buskers £100 for not fucking smiling on a public performance. Then they wanted to find, they said, we're going to stop aggressive begging. And their definition of aggressive begging is someone begging within 5 meters of a cash point machine. Right? That's merely, they can be sitting there with a little hat and that's all, quiet, but it would be deemed to be aggressive begging if they were within 5 meters of a cash point. And you think, okay, how are you going to stop aggressive begging? By having a council warden go up to someone and go, give me £100 now. Oh, the irony. Now, these proposals were put forward by Oxford, and the area that this applies to is the city centre. It is the shopping centre, it is the area around the council buildings, it is a residential area called Jericho, and it is all the Oxford parks and their universities and the nice kind of niceries around Oxford. If you walk the perimeter of it, it is 8 miles long. 8 miles long, so this is quite a big area that this applies to. The council were challenged on this. Oxford had just one council. The council were challenged on this, and they said, "All right, we won't criminalise homeless people. We'll let them stay." They said, but they're still going ahead with the majority of the rest of it, despite the fact when they pushed it through, Chris Grayling's court fines were in place, which meant. They have recently been, Gove did a good thing, which is just fucking remarkable. Gove got rid of the court fines, but Chris Grayling's fines basically meant that if you went to court and you pled guilty, you got 150 quid fine. As the court charge, it was a fine a charge rather than a fine. But if you decided to fight and say, I am not guilty, but were found guilty, the charge would go up to 650 quid. So there was a financial sort of pressure for people to plead guilty. So the council was completely unaware of this, that this was in existence, and that by taking people who are begging to court, that they were going to give them not just a 100 quid fine, but then another 150 quid fine minimum. And what they were doing was putting homeless people and people who are begging on a debt accumulator, by de facto bringing back the debtors' courts through this piece of legislation. If you look at other examples, this is just one in Oxford, there's loads of them. In Exeter, they want to bring in a PSPO so council wardens can take away homeless people's sleeping bags. Right, in the city centre, they've called it any bedding paraphernalia, like cardboard and all those luxuries. And that's what they want to do. So they're giving council wardens a chance to take away homeless people's bedding. The most vulnerable people, they're going to steal their fucking bedding from them. Because of one thing, they want to keep the city centre clean for business. They want to keep it open for the shopping centres. They want to make it look nice so our shopping experience is all fine and dandy and the realities of the world don't impinge upon us. That is why they're doing it. They're mimicking corporate space and the way that corporate space has reacted to the world. Councils are now mimicking this. The other thing they're trying to do in Exeter is to outlaw, quote, 2 or more people acting in a manner which may cause alarm. Which is outrageous because it's just, you could probably say that about people vaping outside a pub or people trick-or-treating or anything. I suggested that we walk around with signs saying there is no God because that will upset someone and therefore break the law. But these places are becoming sanitised. They're becoming sanitised places at the behest and bequest of the business improvement districts, which is a whole force that is coming through whereby the police and local business districts are uniting to try and cleanse the area of any blemishes, by which they mean homeless people or people begging or people busking, and that's what they want. And we have to reclaim those areas. We have to fight back and say these are areas not just for shopping centres. We couldn't give a monkeys about your shopping centres. What we want is an area that belongs to us, that is our land, that feels that we are part of it and that we have access and can enjoy it and create and invent upon it. And that is really what it's about. Hopefully, we will be getting... There are some really fantastic examples of PSPOs. In Caerphilly, they outlawed loitering in the bus station. Which is just quite remarkable. That they have got ones coming through in Swindon. They tried to, but we're winning some of them. In Hackney, they wanted to outlaw begging, and the outcry was so much that actually they dropped it. In Birmingham, they wanted to stop people making speeches in public places. And again, the outcry was quite a bit, and they stopped that. In Chester, which I just have a personal dislike of that place intensely, just because I think it's full of people who are too posh for Liverpool. But anyway, the thing is, in Chester they wanted to ban people lying